I just remember being in a room of like an abandoned building in the city. I don't think there was electricity anywhere in the city. I think the power was out everywhere, so maybe it was a post-apocalyptic scenario, or maybe not post-apocalyptic, but World War III or something had happened, and I think I got the feeling everyone was living in squalor. It wasn't just me and the people in my dream. I think like the whole country, you know, we were all doing really bad, because it felt normal to be in that abandoned building, and I was just in like a room. It was like a living room, and there were like just women all over the floor just sleeping, and all the women had a baby with them, and you know, I remember like stepping over people. You know, just the floor in the living room was just, everyone was just camped out, and the only light was from flashlights, and eventually a laptop screen. But at first it was just flashlight light, and so I'd shine the light on the ground, and I could see like faces of wrapped around me like a sheet, you know, just like a white sheet, and it was cold and everyone's sleeping, and I'm just in the corner, and I had my laptop screen on, and it looked just like Adobe Premiere, like I was babies. It looked just like Adobe Premiere, but when I was looking on the screen, instead of a video footage on the screen, I saw like my fetus, and I was pregnant, and I was trying to adjust the levels and all these things, but instead of like adjusting levels and saturation and color hue and all of that, it was like I was able to adjust my baby's internal, like the baby's body and the way the body was responding, and I was having a miscarriage, and I was trying to edit and adjust the levels of my baby faster than I was having the miscarriage. Like I was trying to stop the miscarriage from happening, and it was almost like those computers were almost something that everyone had, you know, like a health monitor. Like maybe it's like a future technology thing, because it was like a crappy laptop, like one of those old thick ass laptops from like the 90s, you know, like it was not, but it was, you know, it was connected to my baby's body in some way, and I was just sitting there frantically, just like I was editing a video, but it was like tweaking the genome and, you know, adjusting, you know, antibodies in the bloodstream, and you know, amount of oxygen that he was taking in, and I was like watching the miscarriage happen in the data, and then trying to edit and adjust the levels to keep the baby alive. So I don't know if that was like a technology that maybe that was like normal, that like give a pregnant woman, like, here, you can monitor your fetus, it's up to you to keep it alive.
How did you feel while you were trying to save the baby's life? Like what were you experiencing at the time?
Well, it felt really horrible. You know, it felt like I just felt really alone, like I was just in that room, and it was like this life where, you know, doctors weren't there to help you anymore. It was just kind of up to you, and it, you know, it was this sense of responsibility, like this is my child, and I'm its mother, and I'm the only one who can keep it alive and protect it. And it also was and figure it out on your own, or just kill your babies over and over again. You know, that was probably, yeah, sounds about right for the future for women.
And futuristic.
Like in a dystopian kind of fucked up way, you know, it's like here, you know, here you got yourself knocked up, you fucking take care of it. Our doctors are busy doing other things, you know. But of course, but that's only maybe if we were, you know, had a you know 20 billion people on the planet and there was no risk of the human race getting cut off, then I could see them being like, I don't give a fuck about these women. But if the human race was at stake because it was an apocalypse, then they probably would be putting them in farms and making sure they keep having babies. So I get the feeling that it was a future where there was too many people on the planet and they didn't give a fuck about if babies live or not.
But the problem